The first learning objective in section 2.1 is to construct and interpret frequency tables, relative frequency tables, and bar plots. Here's the example. Ruth's Diner is considering placing an ad to attract new customers to the restaurant and is interested in the age demographics of their customers. Ruth takes a random sample of 115 of her customers during the week. Complete the relative frequency distribution in the data table below. Round your answers to 3 decimal places. Create a bar plot for the data using the relative frequencies on the vertical axis. The 2 columns that we've been given, the age group column with the different categories and the frequency column with the counts in each category, gives us the frequency distribution or the frequency table. To compute a relative frequency table, we need to compute relative frequencies. We do that by dividing the frequency by the total number of individuals. In Geogebra, I verified what they told us, that there were 115 total people in the sample, by adding up 9, 19, 37, 44, and 6, which are the frequencies that are given. And you can see that that does add up to 115. So to compute the relative frequency for the child category, we'll take the frequency of 9 and divide by the total of 115. That gives us 0.078 rounded to the 3rd decimal place. For the teenager category, we'll divide 19 by 115 and we get 0.165. For the young adult category, we'll divide 37 by 115. We get 0.322 rounded to the 3rd decimal place. For the middle-aged category, we'll divide 44 by 115 and we get 0.383. And finally, for the senior citizen category, we take the 6 senior citizens divided by the 115 total individuals, and we get 0.052. We can create a bar plot in Geogebra as well. I've opened up the spreadsheet function in Geogebra, and I've filled in 9 ones for the children, 19 twos for the teenagers, 37 threes for the young adults, 44 fours for the middle-aged people, and 6 fives for the 6 senior citizens. I'm going to highlight this column of data that I've entered, and the reason I'm using numbers is because Geogebra works a lot better with numbers. It doesn't like word entries. And then I'm going to click on this graph icon at the top, and it will open up one variable analysis. If it has you select it, you'll want to select one variable analysis. And we'll get a new window that has some graphs for us. So the graph is the bar chart. If yours opens up with a different graph, click on this drop-down menu and select the bar chart. Now you'll notice that there are a few issues with this bar plot in Geogebra. It has numbers along the horizontal axis because that's what Geogebra prefers. It also has frequencies along the vertical axis. And that's not what we were asked to do in this question. Unfortunately, Geogebra, it's not very easy to change those labels. So it may be just as quick to create the bar plot by hand. I've done that here. So it's not as pretty as the Geogebra output, but you can see that I have a vertical axis now with the relative frequencies, and the heights of the bar correspond to the relative frequencies we computed in the relative frequency distribution. Along the horizontal axis, I have the different age group categories that I have labeled, and I've now have the bars associated with each of those categories. Let's answer the questions that are asked here. How many customers were children or teenagers? Well, in the children category, there were 9, and in the teenager category, there were 19, so I'm going to add those 2 up. Now you can maybe do that by hand, or I'll bring up Geogebra again. I'm going to move over my graph and move over my spreadsheet, come back to my calculator, and I will add 9 plus 19, and I get 28. So 28 of the customers were either children or teenagers. what percentage of customers are young adults? We've already computed the relative frequency for young adults, 0.322. So to change that to a percentage, we can just move the decimal 2 places to the right and we get 32.2%. And finally, were a majority of customers middle-aged or senior citizens? Well, the middle-aged group and the senior citizens group have 0.383 and 0.052 in them respectively. So let's add those together. 0.383 plus 0.052, and we get 0.435, which is a percentage of 43.5%. 43.5% is not a majority. In order to be a majority, we need to have more than 50%. So I am going to type in an answer here. Were a majority of customers middle-aged or senior citizens? No, there were 45.5% of customers that were middle-aged or senior citizens, which is not more than 50%.